Hey guys, it's Can Opener. I got a few questions about how to finish HDPE. Early on when I was working with this stuff, one of the comments I made was the beautiful part about it is it doesn't require finishing. And they pretty much looked like this back then. So I hope you can see, yeah, if I get it like that. You can see the ridge lines from where the router cuts come together. I hope by following this glare line you can see some of the irregularities. I mean, this thing looks pretty good. It's nothing to be ashamed of, just like it is. And you can get them like this. Some guys are selling them just like this, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I would take a utility knife and I would scrape the sharp corners. Basically, I just take this knife and I would just use it like that and use it in a scraping fashion, and you could scrape off the points, the sharp corners. Like this is real sharp right here. You can just take a scraper and you could scrape that off. But the bottom line is none of that's as good as a sanded and polished finish, and show you the difference. Now there's conversations about HDPE being slick, and it is slick. I mean, there's solutions to that, grip tape, other that shrink wrap stuff is another thing. But I've been finding that once I sand and polish this, it's not the same slick as it is now. But this is going to be a matter of personal taste. It's a 10 incher, it's a 50 ply, and it's a loose wheel, meaning that it's only sewn down here in the middle. Here's a hard wheel just to show you the difference, and so you don't want to use this one. And I'm going to buff it with this blue buffing compound, and I put the link on where the conversation's happening. But it's basically at Delvey's Plastics in Utah. You can Google them, and it's called blue plastic buffing compound. Comes in big bars and small bars. So this is what I'm going to charge the wheel with when I start buffing it. I'm going to sand it with 320 grit Sterated aluminum oxide paper, a random orbit quarter sheet pad sander. It works well once you learn how to roll it over the edges and stuff like that. I'll do it in real time for a little bit, and then I'll speed it up so that you can see. You don't have to set through the whole process. But it typically only takes me about 15 minutes to sand and buff one of these things. You want to have breathing protection, you want to have eye protection, and if you want to be able to hear when you get old, you want to have hearing protection. So I got all the sharp corners off. I sculpted these to the way I like them. I rounded that one, evened it up, made it a nice shape. I even got in there, you see I just turned it sideways. I'll tell you, if you guys try to do this and you haven't done it, the trick is to use the soft edges. Don't use the corners with the clips on them. But if you see, I pretty much wore that paper out down both sides. Anyhow, that didn't even take 5 minutes, alright? So let's go over here and buff it. I'm not sure if you can see the difference now. It's got a kind of a matte finish to it now. The question was, did you have the colors getting into each other? I haven't had that problem at all. I don't have to switch sandpaper, so that's another question. I only use the 320 grit all the way through. And this is, I don't have to wet sand. It's ready to be buffed. Okay guys, here it is, all buffed and completed. Can get nice. It'll actually, the buffer will, if you push too hard with the buffer, it'll melt it. And that is a 1725 RPM buffer. If you stay in one place too long, it'll melt. If you push too hard, it'll melt. Sharp edges, you can just knock them off with just the buffer. Anyhow, I tell you what, man, it feels so good in your hand. It's like, wow. Okay, I hope that answers your questions. I'll see you guys around.